Hello and welcome. So unfortunately, the Senate did not want to boost those second stimulus checks up to $2,000 last week. But this isn't the end of hope. We're facing quite the game of political chess right now. The Queen's Gambit, except Mitch McConnell is that redheaded girl. And with that comes the possibility of a third stimulus check. And I'm not just saying this to get your hopes up. There honestly is a chance of this happening. And today is a huge day for what happens with that future stimulus payment. And this is because a major driving factor for another round of stimulus checks and another stimulus bill comes down to Georgia's runoff elections, which are today. Now, I know I've spoken about these elections a few times in the past, but let's really go into depth as to why this matters and how it's going to greatly affect bumping that stimulus up to $2,000 or an entirely new stimulus package altogether. And then we're going to talk about where this election is sitting as of right now and what we can kind of expect. And this is important because the easiest route for more stimulus would be for both Democratic candidates in the Georgia runoff election to win. This would give the Democratic Party 48 seats in the Senate to the Republicans 50. Now, I know that this means the GOP still has 2 more seats than the Democrats, but as of right now, the 2 remaining senators who are independent typically vote Democratic. So assuming that the independent senators, Angus S. King Jr. from Maine and Bernie Sanders from Vermont, stay with their Democratic views, which I don't see them switching anytime soon, that would then bring us to a tie of 50 seats each. Now, the reason why this really matters is over time, senators have voted less and less against their party, which means many bills will be split 50-50 right down the middle. And if a vote is split down the middle in the Senate, the tiebreaker vote goes to the vice president, who, assuming all continues as it is, will be Democrat Kamala Harris. This, of course, results in a far greater chance of a third round of stimulus coming. If the votes go any other way, like either one or both Republican candidates wins, we can expect similar negotiations and progress to what we've seen so far with Congress, slow and far from steady. This wouldn't mean that we won't get another stimulus check altogether, but the odds are definitely less. And here's something that I found interesting while researching this. Because the new Senate started on January 3rd, whoever wins the Georgia elections will immediately be a part of voting on new bills. There's not going to be any delay here. So this could allow for a vote on a stimulus very soon after election results are certified, which could take a little while. We also have to remember, either way the runoff election goes, there are still all sorts of other factors that we have to keep an eye on as well that will determine the need for more stimulus, its potential arrival date, and just how much could be spent on stimulus. So now that we know the importance of these elections, let's break down just how we got in this crazy situation in the first place and how tight this race is. As we've learned this year, each state has its own rules and nuances when it comes to deciding elections. And in Georgia, they require a candidate to win the majority vote. Over 50% of all votes must go to a candidate. If no one wins the majority, then the top 2 candidates of the race move on to the runoff election, which again is held today. This year, 2 seats were up for grabs in the Georgia Senate, and in regular 2020 fashion, neither race had a candidate get over 50% of the necessary votes to win. Republican Senator David Perdue was the closest to that majority vote, coming in at 49% of the votes. The other 3 candidates include Democrat John Ossoff, who pulled in 47% running against Perdue. Then the other seat, we saw Republican Kelly Loeffler, who earned 26% of the votes, and Democrat Raphael Warnock, who managed to get 32% in that race against Kelly. So as you can see, the numbers could not be tighter, and the outcome could not be more of a wild card. Both of the incumbents are Republicans, and both have had some scrutiny and bad press in the recent past. Perdue is a former CEO of Reebok and has been senator in Georgia since 2015. He's been questioned recently, though, over some huge stock trades in companies whose business fall under his scope of influence in his Senate committees. Then we have Loeffler, who's seen some heat in the recent past as well, because she is one of the wealthiest senators and has been asked to sell her stake in a WNBA team because she has reportedly opposed the Black Lives Matter movement. And then on the other side, we have the Democrat Warnock, who is part of an organization that's currently under investigation by Georgia's Secretary of State for allegedly sending ballot applications to non-residents. The fourth candidate, Ossoff, is the only person running who doesn't have a recent scandal. So welcome to America, where you have 4 choices and 3 of them have some major scandals. And of course, both sides are saying their party will win. However, if a Democrat wins this time, it would be the first time that that has happened in Georgia in decades. So they're definitely facing an uphill battle here. However, there has been a ton of pressure falling upon the GOP after the recent blocks on the Senate floor for a vote on that $2,000 stimulus check, so we might just see that tide turning. Now, let's look at what the data says about the runoff election so far. According to the Atlanta Journal, over 114,000 Georgia residents who didn't partake in the general election have already cast votes in the early ballots for these runoff elections. Democrat Stacey Abrams says this wave of new voters can be attributed to the GOP's handling of COVID-19 relief. So the state has also tallied 3.6 million early votes so far, and although that's a ton of votes, there's still no way to tell who the votes are in favor just yet. State election data analyzed by the Atlanta Journal indicates that more ballots have been cast by groups and in areas that typically favor Democrats. So that's a little bit more push to that side, despite the incumbents being Republicans. Another data-focused news site, 538, when looking at an average of the polls, actually gave both Democratic candidates a slight lead by just very small margins. The margins are so slim that it still could go either way. Republican Senator Ted Cruz has acknowledged the turnout in Democratic areas and has been urging voters on the GOP side to get out and vote. His exact quote was, "If you're in Georgia, please, please, please come out and bring your friends and your family and your neighbors." The heat is on today, and if you do live in Georgia, make sure you get out and vote for whichever side you believe in. So I'm going to let you know when we have the election results from Georgia, which could take up to a few weeks to certify. So just make sure you're subscribed to keep up to date. Also, make sure you check out the link in my description for Webull, where you can receive 2 completely free stocks with deposit. And while you're at it, check out the link in the description for my Teachable program to start and run a profitable moving company. I own a moving company, and it has done amazingly for me for the past 5 or so years, and I built a course out of it, and I'm really proud of it. So thank you for watching, and of course, have a profitable day.